up, potty people, and welcome back to my channel. So I have to keep it down a little bit because the little one's asleep right now, but we're gonna do a full face, a little one brand review of e.l.f. Cosmetics. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So before we get into it, I do want to point out that there are a few things in here that were sent to me from e.l.f., but there are also things that I purchased myself. But it doesn't matter if it was sent to me or not. I'm always unbiased, I'm always honest. So yeah, there's a mixture of both. I just want to point that out. So the first couple of things I have are these little eyeshadow palettes. So these are the bite-size eyeshadows. These are just quads, but these are $3, and everyone and their mother's been raving about these and hyping them up. Even though they're small, you could pretty much create an entire look with just these little palettes. So I have two shades. I have Truffles, which is more of like a smoky palette. So very, very pretty. I think I'm gonna use this one today. And I think I'm gonna try to stick with just one. And then I also have Cream and Sugar, which is more of like an everyday, neutral, brown kind of toned palette. So yeah, I haven't swatched these or anything, so let's go ahead and swatch them. Ooh, these are very, very pretty. So yeah, very pigmented, and they do seem to be pretty soft. So this one is pretty soft, but it's not the absolute like most buttery formula I've ever touched, but I feel like that would perform pretty well in the eyes. And I also want to swatch Cream and Sugar just to kind of get an idea of the consistency across the board. The shimmers in this one are a little bit more buttery and soft, but there's what Cream and Sugar looks like. You can't see this one because it's like a skin tone kind of shade, but dang it, I really like that one too. I think I do want to work into Truffles just because I feel like everyone is going to talk about the nude palette. So I've already primed my eyes, so because I don't have an eyeshadow to set my primer down with, I'm going to use this setting powder. So this is the Sheer Tint Finishing Powder out of the shade Fair Light. I also, when I first picked this up, I picked up the shade Light Medium, which I thought would be better for my skin tone, but it's very, very dark. So these run very dark, just so you know. So there's what that looks like, and I've heard really, really good things about this. It's supposed to be super buttery and just supposed to give you like an airbrush look. So we're gonna use this to set our primer down. I'm just gonna lightly wash this over. I'm not gonna pack it on or anything. I just want like a very light barrier. I'm gonna first go into this like mid-tone tan shade and put that in my crease. I'm gonna start off in the outer V and then work it into the crease so that like whenever I first lay the brush down, all the concentration's mostly in the outer V, and that way I have a little wiggle room. Ooh, I need to tweeze the brow. Okay, so it's definitely not as dark as what it looks like in the pan. It actually blended out to be fairly light. Like it's more of like a sheer buildable kind of formula instead of being like super, super opaque, which is completely fine. That's actually what I like to go for anyway, but very pretty shade. Now I go into this dark brown right here, and we're just gonna go from light to dark with the mattes and just do a little like staircase thing. I'm just gonna take that on a smaller blending brush and work this into the outer V and kind of like fluff it into the eyelid itself. Okay, so usually I don't like working with dark browns just because I don't like to spend 15 minutes just blending one eyeshadow, but that was really, really easy to work with. You have a lot of control where it's more of like a buildable formula. It doesn't start off with too much pigmentation right out the gate, so yeah, liking it so far. So now I'm gonna try to tackle this matte black on my eyelid, which I usually never do because of the whole like blending thing, because it usually takes me too long and I just don't like to spend that much time on my eyeshadow, but we're testing out the entire palette, so we're gonna do it. I'm just gonna take that on another small blending brush and just kind of work this at a diagonal along the lash line. And I think I'm gonna bring this a little bit further in instead of keeping it towards the outer, like the outer half, or like the outer third of the eye. 90s grunge look coming at you. It's definitely doing something for my dark circles. Just making them out there. Ooh, I usually don't like that, but that's really, really nice. Is it just me, or should I just go with like this whole like matte smoky thing? Kind of want to stick with it. I also want to test out the palette. You know what? No, I'm just gonna stick with this and just do something different for once. Yes. I'm gonna go back into that first blending brush and that first, my finger's in the freaking way, that first tan shade that we used. And I'm just gonna kind of wash this back into the crease, but also kind of bring it down the eyelid right here just to blend the black into my skin tone a little bit better. Ooh, I like it. Really like that palette. Moving on to brow. So I have tried this and I'm obsessed with it. This is the Ultra Precise Brow Pencil. I have the shade Neutral Brown. This is just your Anastasia Brow Wiz type brow pencil. It's, you know, just tiny and precise and cute and dainty and whatnot, and it's freaking amazing. I love the color, I love the pigmentation, the size, the formula. It would look even better if I actually had two brows. Moving on to primer now. So I'm usually not a big primer person. I don't really feel like they're super necessary, but the whole trend right now is this like sticky, tacky, jelly-like primer. Kind of like the Milk Hydro Grip primer. I think that's kind of what started it all. And I haven't tried that one. That's on my list to try, but I imagine this is very, very similar. This is the Jelly Pop Dew Primer. This is part of their watermelon collection or something like that. I usually don't see like the benefits of using primer mostly, but I really feel like with this, it adheres to my foundation, and not only does it help it stay on longer, but it also helps with with the coverage. Like, I don't know, it just seems like this just locks the foundation down. It's like it locks the pigmentation down to where you get more from it. And something I see a lot of people doing in videos is using primer the way they would moisturizer. Like, you don't need a freaking dollop of primer to cover your entire face. It's not moisturizer. But yeah, it does have like a tacky kind of sticky feel. Like it's not like gross sticky, but yeah, it's just tacky enough to where it's gonna lock onto your foundation. But as you can see, it does give you a really nice like dewiness to your skin, but it's not oily or greasy feeling or looking. So I like it. So moving on to foundation. So I technically do have a foundation from e.l.f. Probably shouldn't use it because it's like a century old, but we're gonna do it for the sake of the video. But what I really want to test is this mix match adjuster in the shade Deepen. I've been a very long time fan of this one in the shade Golden, which is literally just straight up yellow pigment. So if you have a golden or olive undertone and you have a hard time finding your perfect shade, especially at the drugstore, like there's like no golden undertone foundation at the drugstore, but with this you can customize anything to be perfect. This is more of an undertone adjuster, but this is more of like a depth adjuster. So they have this one which deepens, then they also have a light one that lightens. So yeah, they're just straight up pigment. I have this light foundation right here. This clearly doesn't match me. It's not even a good undertone for me either, so I may try the yellow in there too just to show you how that works as well. So with my yellow one, you do not need much at all. Like you literally need the smallest amount. So I'm gonna assume that this is probably the same way. So I just put just like literally whatever's left over on like the end of the dispenser, and we're gonna see how this do. Hopefully it doesn't make it ashy though. I'm kind of afraid it's gonna make it more ashy than anything. Okay, so we're gonna go down here on the hairy part of my arm and I'm gonna do like a little side by side. So is it deepening? It's just kind of making it grayish, I think. Okay, let's go into that yellow one. Maybe it's just one of those things where you need both. They also have an orange one as well, like if you need to make it more warm. Oh, see, like that's probably too much, but we're gonna do it anyway. So, ooh, yeah, way too much. Oh, look at this, just messy, 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 messy. Okay, so I definitely do think I can make that work. And honestly, I don't know if, I mean, it did darken it as you can see, but I don't know if the darkening is from the yellow or from that deepening adjuster. Because honestly, I find that just by using this, ooh, it drips. It drips, be careful with that. But just by using this, I find that it darkens my foundation. So if I have a foundation that's really fair like this, maybe you want to use your lighter like winter foundation in the summertime instead of buying two separate ones, you just get to use one. But yeah, you can just use this to mix it in with your like a lighter winter shade and it darkens it. So I don't technically need the deepening one, but just wanted to see how it worked. But yeah, I'm gonna try it with a different one just to see what it does. But I can definitely make that work. Like that's pretty perfect. Actually, you know what? Let's use these with like a super, super fair concealer. Go into just the deepening. Oh, way too much. Too much, Jean. Calm down. Oh, okay. It definitely does darken. So maybe this is one of those things where it just like, it's not just a subtle like one or two shade difference. Like it makes a really, really light thing very dark. If you're someone like me that you're just wanting to darken a foundation by like one or two shades, this may not be for you. I would say just stick to like the undertone adjusters. But if you're someone that has a really dark skin tone and maybe you have a hard time finding a foundation that's dark enough, then I think this would be the best bet for you. But for me, I think I could just use the yellow one and get away with it. So it's actually like 6 hours later. It's like midnight now. So I'm back. So moving on to foundation. So this is the one that I've had for many, many moons. It needs to be tossed, but I always kept it for videos that would come up like this. So I'm just gonna take one for the team, and if I break out, I break out. I mean, story of my life at this point. So this is the e.l.f. Acne Fighting Foundation, which has been around for a very, very long time. And this seriously marks off so many check marks on my checklist of what makes a good foundation. It is so good. It's full coverage. It's a beautiful, like moussey, velvety matte finish, but it's not too matte to where it's drying looking. It doesn't get cakey or thick or heavy looking. It stays on all day long. But the downside to it is that the shades suck ass. Even I can't find a good shade, and I'm a pretty basic like vanilla skin tone, and I've tried 2 of these and neither one of them work. I know that e.l.f. is going to watch this video, so I'm pleading to you, make more shades in this because this is so good. I'm going to apply it with one of their new brushes, and I have had several of their brushes over time, but this is the newest one in my collection. This is the angled buffing brush, so this is going to be good for so many things, and this is dirty because I have used it. Get over yourself. As you can see, it does have like a slight angle to it, but it's very dense. And I love the way this applies foundation. But not only is it going to be good for foundation, it's going to be good for cream contour, cream blush, concealer. I've tried it with concealer before. I like it for that as well. Like pretty much any liquid or cream product. So I'm going to use this. So I'm going to go ahead and shake this 6-year-old foundation up and just hope for the best. Yeah, here's what the color looks like. This is in the shade Porcelain, which no. So what I'm gonna do is mix it in with a little bit of golden. Yeah, I don't know what it is about this little undertone adjuster, but it actually darkens. So I think that's really, really cool. But this blends out so beautifully. It has such a nice like soft matte finish. Man, this brush is so good. Usually I don't like to use a brush with my foundation, but just because they typically leave like streaks and stuff behind, I just don't like them. Like I usually prefer a sponge, but this is seriously one of my holy grail like go-to foundations. It's just one of those that always works for me. Like it always looks good. It doesn't matter what season, like what time of year it is, what kind of skin I have. It's a no-fail product. If you have dry skin, you would definitely be able to get away without using setting powder. If you have oily skin, I would just set like your T-zone or wherever you get oily. So e.l.f., once again, if you can hear me, make more shades. I kind of feel like I'm too bright on this side and there's just too much shadow on this side. Like I have a new LED light over here and I feel like it's just, kind of off balance. Okay, I put it over here. I think it looks a lot better now. Yeah, we're more balanced. Ooh, look at me. I got a little halo light back there. I'm all fancy. Okay, so moving on to concealer. And I've talked about this before, but not in a one brand review, so we're doing it again. So this is the Hydrating Camo Concealer, and I compare this to the original Camo Concealer. I'll put that video up here. Check that out if you want to see a little comparison, a little side-by-side comparison. But I have the shade Fair Warm, so I'm gonna go ahead and dab this on. And I don't really put on a whole lot of concealer anymore. And with this stuff, you don't need much. I actually really, really like this concealer. It's a beautiful full coverage. It lasts all day with very, very minimal creasing. So I'm gonna blend that out with my e.l.f. sponge. I've used this a few times before and it is pretty good. Like it's not like you're beating yourself with a rock. Like it's really nice and soft and it's just nice and squishy. But I find that with some formulas, it tends to leave like the fabric of the sponge behind. Like you can see where the sponge, like especially on my nose right here. I don't know if it's gonna happen today. It's not really doing it. See, it doesn't happen with every formula, but with some formulas it tends to leave like the sponge marks, like little porous marks behind. So that's not cool. Hopefully you guys can see how far a small amount of this concealer goes. Like you do not need much. Like that's just like a dot and a half and it covered that entire under eye area. Yeah, there's what that concealer looks like. It's just so smooth, and I do like this one better than the original Camo, especially if you have like a really dry under eye area. I recommend this one over the original. But yeah, check out that comparison video because I get down and dirty in that one. I don't have a bronzer from e.l.f., so do I have a bronzer from e.l.f.? So I'm gonna go ahead and use this L'Oreal True Match Lumi bronzer, which has seriously become like my favorite bronzer of all time. Moving on to blush now. So I have a cream and a powder. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use both of them since they're both from e.l.f. So I just picked up this bite-sized face duo in the shade Guava, which comes with the blush and the highlighter. So it's kind of hard to pick out a shade online just because they all kind of look the same. Like especially the highlighters, like there's a highlighter in every single one of them and they pretty much all look the same. So yeah, pretty much the only thing that's different is the blush in my opinion. But here's what this one looks like, which is it's just a really pretty like matte peachy shade. And then the highlighter is more of like a warm champagne. So we have that one and that's like $3 or $4. And then I also have this, what is this called? It's just one of their cream blushes. I don't know what it's called, but this is the Soft Rose shade, and it's so hard to find a good like cream blush at the drugstore. And this is like right up my alley. I think this is so pretty. It's such a beautiful color and it stays put, especially on oily skin. It's hard to find good cream blushes that actually stay put without making you look like super shiny and greasy and they just melt off. But this is just that perfect, like I've been out in the sun. I got a little sunburn, a little sun-kissed kind of blush. So what I think I might do is actually apply one to each side just so you can see the most in action. And I mean, I'm gonna take this off afterwards anyway, so why the heck not? But I also want to use this cream blush because I have this new brush and I think it's going to be better for cream products. So this is the Precision Airbrush Stipple. I probably should have done this before I used powder bronzer. Oh well, I think I'm going to do the cream on this side. So let's see. Ooh, that brush is pretty nice. So yeah, I'm really liking the way this brush is applying this. I should probably get up close to show you what it looks like, and I wish I had done it before I got it dirty. Yeah, hopefully you guys can see. It does have like longer bristles here. Like you have the original cut and you have like these little longer bristles, which I guess that's why they're calling it a stipple brush, because of those. Okay, so on this side I'm gonna do the powder blush in the shade Guava, and this is not very pigmented at all. Like I've been swirling this for a good 10 seconds and That's all the pigmentation I have on my brush. I mean, the payoff is just pretty weak. I mean, it's only like $3 or $4, so you're not wasting a whole lot of money. And maybe there is an inconsistency between each palette. Like maybe this one's a dud and another shade is really, really good. I don't know. So moving on to highlighter. So my plan was to use the highlighter from this Face Duo, but I just realized that I have this entire highlighter palette. So let's use this one instead, shall we? So this is the Glow Gleam Beam palette. Glow Green Beam. Okay, these look really sheer so far. So I just swatched this bottom row right here. So they look kind of pitiful. This had like a really, really good rating though. So maybe on the skin it'll look completely different, but can you even see them? Oh, what? They're right there. So let's swatch this top row now. So there's this like super glittery white that has no payoff. Yeah, these two right here, very, very pretty. Let's see, on this side, let's do the top row, and on this side, let's do the bottom row. So let's do this one right here in the middle first. I haven't been into like a super blinding highlight, so I like natural now, and that's pretty. I'm gonna mix it in with this one over here to kind of darken it a little bit because it is pretty light. But I mean, this could definitely be built up. Like it's, ooh, a little more blinding than usual. I'm gonna take a different brush. Let's go over to the bottom row now. Let's do this little goldy kind of champagne shade. Let's put it right over here. And again, sometimes swatches can be deceiving. Like this could be really, really good on the cheeks. That's not bad. Let's mix it in with this little bronzy rose gold over here and warm it up a little bit. I do feel like the bottom row that I use on this side is a little bit more natural, a little bit more like a dewy sheen, whereas this side, like the top row, just a little bit more blinding, a little bit more in your face, a little bit more emphasizing of textures and stuff. But I mean, I feel like with setting spray, they're both gonna be really, really pretty. So yeah. Okay, so moving on to setting powder, and honestly, I wouldn't have to set this if I didn't want to. Like I could just set my under eye area and be done because it sets to be such a pretty like it sets on its own. Like it looks so airbrush and just so soft. But I have two, so I'm gonna use them. First, I have this Halo Glow setting powder in the shade Light. This is just a loose setting powder, and then I also have this sheer tint finishing powder in the shade Fair Light, which I used to set my primer earlier. So this is the one. This is pressed, so it has a little bit of color to it. And I'm pretty sure I've heard this is a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury airbrush powder. I could be wrong, but I heard it through the grapevine. I'm gonna use this to set the entirety of my face, and then use the halo powder to set just under my eyes. So I'm gonna go ahead and bounce out the creases a little bit. I really like the packaging of this halo powder because it has one of those like little twist turn sifters to where you can close it off instead of it being completely open all the time. Yeah, here's what the halo powder looks like. I mean, it feels so finely milled. Like it is so soft. It almost feels like air whenever you touch it. But even though it's a fair light shade, it's more like a translucent fair light shade. Like it has a little bit of color to it, but it's not like an actual stark white kind of powder. But it has just a slight bit of sheen to it, which I personally like. Even though I have oily skin, I don't like to be like super flat matte. I think that combined with this being like super, super finely milled makes it perfect for under the eyes. It doesn't really add any coverage, but it does add like a slight brightening effect. So there's what that looks like. And then for the rest of my face, I'm gonna use the pressed powder. So I'm gonna use that with the e.l.f. powder brush, which is just a flat top powder brush, but this has been in my collection for so many years. Like I love this for powder, like setting powder all across your face, because I don't really like fluffy brushes for powder. Like I don't really like something like this for like setting powder because I just like to like press it in. I just find that it just helps my makeup stay on so much better, and it just, I don't know, the powder looks better with a flat top brush like this. Okay, so again, not a lot of color, but just a very slight amount. And I'm kind of surprised that I'm in this shade because I do have some color to me. Like I do have a little bit of tan, but light medium was so dark. Can you even see that? It's definitely not adding a lot of coverage. I mean, if anything, it's a very, very sheer amount, but I mean, that's okay because I'm not looking for a coverage kind of powder. But it's very, very soft, and like my skin just looks very airbrush and it's very poreless and just like a soft matte finish. And it's not like overly powdery and like overly mattifying, which again, that's what I'm looking for, but it's pretty undetectable on the skin. So yeah, haven't tried it before today, but I think it's gonna be a keeper. Okay, so I think all I have left is to finish up my lower lash line and then my lip products, and I think, is that it? Oh, actually I have a setting spray, so we'll go ahead and use that. This is the new Stay All Night Microfine Setting Mist. It says up to 16-hour wear. Lock your look down from AM to PM with this lightweight makeup setting spray. It's infused with green tea, cucumber, and aloe. I haven't worn makeup a whole lot, so I haven't been testing it like a ton, but it takes me a long time to test out setting sprays. I need time. It does have like a little ball in here you have to shake up. Sounds like a spray paint can. God almighty, won't you wake up the whole neighborhood? I will say the mister on this is pretty tough to push down. I mean, first world problems obviously, but like there's a lot of misters where like you can just like continuously spray them. It's not gonna give you carpal tunnel. But this one's kind of tough. Like you have to like put in an effort, and I don't really want to do that. I feel like I have to use a lot of this. I have to be like super close. Okay, so now my lungs are infused with cucumber and aloe and my hair is drenched. There's what it looks like. I mean, it's not one of those that gives your skin like a super hydrated, like dewy effect. It doesn't add any kind of like extra finish to your skin. It just sets in place what you already have. I don't think it's gonna be my absolute favorite setting spray. I'm gonna go ahead and apply some lip liner. I'm gonna use the MAC Spice lip pencil. Okay, so I have two lip products. So first I have this Seriously Satin lipstick in the shade Nectar. I mean, this is pretty much exactly what it's called. Like it's like a satin lipstick. It's not matte, it's not creamy, it's not glossy or anything. It's just like a satiny kind of finish. But there's what that shade looks like. It's really, really pretty. It's kind of like a peachy brick mauve. Is that makes no sense. Okay, it's actually like a brick coral. Coral. But yeah, it's a really pretty fall kind of shade. It doesn't really pair the best with this eye look, but I mean, if you like corally, like deep coral peachy shades like this, then it's really nice. And then for lip gloss, I have this lip lacquer in the shade Mauve Glitz. So here's what that looks like. And what does this look like to you guys? Because to me, it looks like the Fenty Gloss Bomb, like the original. So we may be putting this in a future dupe video, but I'm gonna go ahead and top off the lipstick with this. But yeah, it doesn't have any kind of like tingle or anything. It's not plumping, it's just your basic gloss. It is kind of thick though, I will say that, which I like because I find that thicker glosses like this actually stay on better. Yeah, here's what the color looks like. It's not like super intense color payoff or anything. It will give you a subtle hint, like especially if you're not wearing anything underneath it. Like if you're just wearing this gloss, then it will give you some color, but I mean, it's very, very subtle, but it's super shiny and just juicy and glossy, and it's super comfortable. It's not sticky, like you don't get the little balls that are attached to each lip whenever you talk. So yeah, I like it. So yeah, that is it for my full face of e.l.f. Cosmetics. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm not the biggest fan of the highlighter palette. It's not bad, but it's just not my favorite. And the setting spray, I'm kind of on the fence about. I'm gonna have to keep testing it, but as far as the effect that it gives, I'm not really the biggest fan of how it doesn't like add a little bit of luminosity to my skin. Like I said, it really just keeps and like maintains what you already have going on, which you may like that, but I need just a little bit of some extra. And then also I don't like the face duo all that much. Yeah, just not the biggest fan of that. But let me know in the comments below, what are your favorite products from e.l.f.? I want to hear what y'all's best top picks are. So if you haven't already, then go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, if you want to see more one brand reviews like this, and subscribe to my channel and turn that notification bell on to always see my videos, and I will see you guys in my next one. Mwah.